Okay, well, we're having a bit of technical issues, one of which Yasmin Al-Rashidi, who is our desk in Cairo. Cairo now has about 3 power blackouts a day for various reasons, so she's absent. Also, Ilya Brodakaskis, who's our Russian desk, is not responding, and I hope he's okay, considering what's been going on in Moscow these days. But as a segue, if you remember in the beginning, we had discussed, or we had mentioned that WdW also has a series of desks which follow the normal sort of newspaper bureau format. So we have representatives in Athens, we have representatives in Istanbul, and so on and so forth. So for this reason, we've invited several of our desks to give small little reports on their area. To this end, I would like to introduce our Istanbul desk, Binnaz Saktanber. I'm dyslexic in many ways.
That's okay.
And
you can't type.
I can't type. I'm totally useless.
Yeah, hi everyone. So I guess none of the other editors are here. I'm so sorry about that. And I'm the only one you get, so I'll try. One more? Okay, good. Okay, so I'll try to keep this short. So you know that famous line from the Tale of Two Cities, it was the best of times, it was the worst of times? That's kind of what it's like in Turkey right now. On the one hand, we have this huge cultural boom that Turkey and, in particular, Istanbul has been experiencing for the last decade, partly thanks to the economic growth and stability because of Erdogan's, brutal capitalism. We have the whole 9 yards, the new open... Oh, someone's calling. New museums, hundreds of new galleries, independent artist initiatives. We have the Istanbul Biennale, 2 contemporary art fairs. Turkish cinema is getting accolades in the international festival circuit. Like I said, the whole 9 yards. But on the other hand, this boom is not backed by the cultural policies of the government. On the contrary, the government's cultural policies are fit to standardize the Islamist view. Artists are increasingly subject to state pressure or intervention or withdrawal from funding. Anything that is remotely political, critical, or sexual is being censored. Even some artists are faced with jail time. Last year, FreeMuse, this NGO, documented the violations on artistic freedom, and Turkey became third only after Russia and China. So at the moment, the focus of my desk, I might say, is just to point out this dichotomy between the booming art scene and the conservative and the censorous policies of the government without trying not to lose an actual critical eye on the art itself and without just falling into a trap of bad government, good artist. So this conservative art discourse started roughly after the 2011 elections, when the then Interior Minister said art is the backyard of terrorism. And then the General Secretary to the Presidency said we must build our own conservative art norms and structures to go with those norms. Then a very prominent pro-government writer published an actual conservative art manifesto. So huge discussion followed, and the opponents said, well, art cannot be conservative, it must be revolutionary, blah, blah, blah. For me, that's not the problem. I think an artist can be conservative. Of course, that's the building block of artistic freedom. Well, for me, probably conservative art won't work as conservative art because good conservative art would probably just be the byproduct of the artist, just happens to be conservative. That's another discussion, I guess. But the real problem here is imposing and dictating those norms and expecting everyone to obey by them and punishing those who actually doesn't. And that's exactly what's happening in Turkey. Censorship is increasing. Strict regulations came to theater, ballet, opera. Now all state theaters, ballets, operas have to give their plot synopses to the government for approval to get funding and just to get approved. Symphony dropped critical composers. The hemlines in ballet costumes are lowered. Just tons of examples that I can't go in right now, but just to give you the gist of it, in 2011, Erdogan went to the city of Kars and he saw a statue. It was called the Statue of Humanity. It was commissioned in 2006 by the then mayor to commemorate the rapprochement between Armenia and Turkey. Erdogan saw this. He called the statue of freak an abomination, and he ordered it to be demolished. So it got demolished. And then a little while after, a group of artists wanted to protest this censorship. So they organized a kind of a counter exhibition called Freak, and then that exhibition got censored. And two of the artists and the artwork were trialed for insulting religion. So it's like a crazy, never-ending loop. One artwork is censored, then artists go and try to protest that censorship. They got censored as well. It's just never-ending. And of course, the danger here is that when will actually people get bored of this and start self-censoring themselves? And in the legal front of things, it's bad as well. There are anti-terror laws, defamation laws that are frequently and haphazardly used to censor and to punish artists. Just recently, the government proposed a new draft bill to build an 11-person council, art council, just all appointed bureaucrats from the government who will basically decide which project will be funded and for how much. Of course, the fear is that the decisions will be political rather than on the merits of the art. At the same time, the management of the state institutions, state art institutions, are terrible. Tons of priceless artwork has been stolen from the museums, replaced by copies. Last year, a former wrestling referee was appointed as the general director of the State Theater. And then last year we had a mirror exhibit, and it had to be closed because all the artwork were fake. The mirror estate called and they were like, can you close this because this is not ours. And the Gezi protests was also part of this process because the area, the Taksim Square and the whole Gezi area was kind of the heart of the art scene. And the plans to demolish the park also included the plans to demolish the Atatürk Cultural Center, which used to be the home of symphony, ballet, and everything. And you probably know contemporary artists were really visible in Gezi, both in terms of their activities in the park and all the public art and digital art that you guys have probably seen. They even, I think, organized a small protest in the Venice Biennale. So after Gezi, two things happened. One positive, a more communal sense appeared. Artists started to pay more attention to political issues, more concerned with social issues. They formed forums to discuss how they will organize, how they will voice their dissent and all that stuff. And just after Gezi, there was the Istanbul Biennale, and the focus point was public spaces as a political domain. But on the negative side, Gezi has also taken its toll on artists. Artists, filmmakers, musicians who took part in the protests were blacklisted. Erdogan even claimed that a theater play where in a dystopian future there's a fictional democracy ruled by a dictator. This was a fictional play, and Erdogan claimed that it incited the protests. So afterwards, the playwright and actress became the victims of a hate campaign. They had to leave the country. It was terrible. And I think Gezi, in the big picture, was also part of a larger discourse on the politics of the public space and art spaces. Because while the protesters and the supporters of the protesters feel threatened that those public places and art spaces, and I use space both literally and figuratively here, were being threatened by the conservative government, the religious, on the other hand, felt like they've been excluded from those spaces and those policies and art for so long that they kind of need to claim those places and those policies. The problem here is that, for me, both the secular governments of the past and the AKP government of the moment are wanting to build cultural policies that would support their own notion of nation state, which is very problematic and antiquated to start with. And especially for the AKP, not just a nation state, but the neo-Ottoman state, we can say. So in this context, the conservative hegemony replaces the secularist hegemony, and whatever is excluded from those two hegemonies are just squished in between. So this neo-Ottoman mentality shows itself in cultural policies in two ways. First, ton of Ottoman-themed art is being funded and promoted. Movies, plays, exhibitions are being funded, and a new kind of aesthetic that I like to call autophilia is being spread like wildfire. If you were here in Alev's keynote speech, you saw some of the examples. And of course, this part of the Ottoman Empire it's not the multicultural Ottoman Empire. It's very ethnically Turkish, it's very Sunni, it's very Muslim, that kind of Ottoman Empire. And second, government is funding art institutions mostly in the regions formerly ruled by the Ottoman Empire. These art institutions are called Yunus Emre institutions, and these are promoting Turkish art and Ottoman art and culture in those kind of post-colonial, maybe we can say, regions. And now another example of this, Turkey is going to join, it's going to be the guest country for this huge festival called Europalia. For 2015, the guest country is Turkey, and it's going to be in Brussels, and it's going to promote Turkish culture and Turkish art. And just to, go to the first point that we made, this year's General Commissioner is the CEO of Renaissance Construction. It's a huge construction company that's been responsible for the infamous presidential palace. And one of the curators is the actual guy who wrote the conservative art manifesto. So that's what's happening. But again, the dichotomy, on the other hand, for the Venice Biennale, the Turkish-Armenian artist Sarkis will make an installation, and it's going to coincide with the 100th anniversary of the Armenian genocide, and Daphne will curate. So again, that dichotomy. And just to end it, I feel like we're kind of in a post-structural moment filled with possibilities, and I think this dichotomy can, can flourish the arts and open the way to a more multicultural and versatile art scene. Or, I don't know, if the country closes up more, the art world can just lose all the gains that it has gained in the last decade, and I guess we'll see what will happen. And I'll try to report. Thank you.